I've lost my mind. Best friend insanity. I've lost my mind. I'm going crazy. I've lost my mind.
Welcome to Saving a Seat with Joe Compton and...
Hey, say his name and he appears. I believe in Bryan, Tann. What's going on?
I think we're going to get copywritten there, but that's okay.
This round of films that we watched, these three films that we watched that we were saving you all a seat for, I'll tell you what, man, you want to talk about family and friendship and messed up? That is the three films we have for you guys tonight. Actually,
all right,
actually, you know what? I think this entire block of films should just be called Shitty Friends and Shitty Family Movie Night.
Absolutely, 1,000%. And so the first movie we're going to talk about is called Ugly Stepsister. All right.
Oh, God.
You just, yeah.
Joe.
All right.
I've watched the original and remake of I Spit on Your Grave. Ugly Stepsister is legit the only other movie that has sickened me. And I've seen the Human Centipede movies. All of them.
Oh
yeah.
boy.
I did that to myself. This is worse.
Yeah, you know, the trailer doesn't do it any justice whatsoever.
Not at all. Not at all. Now, to say repulsed, sickened, creeped out, those are compliments. Because this is a very well-told story.
Yeah.
And for someone like me, a movie now Joe is the technical guy when it comes to films. I'm the story guy. This is such great storytelling. It is amazing storytelling.
It does pay you off. It pays you off. I really enjoyed the first act of this movie. Like the first act is a really great setup because it really starts off like her daydreaming about being with the prince and everything like that, and it has this like whimsical factor to it that you never see again in the rest of the movie.
Yeah, that red color palette for that was really like rose-colored glasses.
Yeah,
and it really is when we learn about the prince.
Yeah,
those really are rose-colored glasses because, well,
yeah.
I'm not trying to spoil anything. This is a review, not a spoiler edition.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about the storytelling is it took its sweet time getting there, though. I really felt like the second act and into the third act really dragged long. This was I like slow burns. I love slow burns.
Same.
But you knew what was coming. You felt what was coming. And, obviously when you get to it, it's shocking as all get out what happens. But you knew something like that was on its way. And so it just takes its time to get there. And I get it where, there's the evolution of the princess and everything like that. And I mean, there's some gnarly shit that happens to her along the way.
I will never think about tapeworms the same again, bro.
I don't think I would ever want a nose job in medieval times.
Oh God. For a time, Cinderella is not a good person, and you're rooting for Elvira, who is the stepsister, because here's the thing. She didn't need a nose job. She didn't need to have things sewn onto her because she was a beautiful girl. And then her mother, who was like Joan Crawford, like turns her into this ugly beast.
Yeah.
And then she's doing all of this stuff to get favor of people who don't like. Wow.
Yeah.
If you're now, here's the thing: when you see body horror, can you really say tasteful and body horror in the same sentence?
Not well.
Because
I mean, it is. It's kind of like Alien. That first moment in Alien when you see the alien come out of Kane's stomach. It's kind of like that a little bit. There's a little bit of that kind of graphicness to it, but it's not that bad. You know,
it doesn't get awful until the end, really. In the third act, because the nose job scene is very, very tough. You feel terrible. The sewing scene is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But when you get to a part where she takes her special pill, you know bad things are going to happen. And that slow burn was insane for that.
You'll laugh, but I thought of Contracted when I was watching that.
Yes.
It's a lot like that. It's just
it really is.
It had this whole experiment in the lab gone wrong kind of idea, you know, and it's and I mean, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but it is that body horror does indicate that somebody's going to get shifted in it, and something happens and something gets shifted.
Shout out especially in this to a Leia Myren who played Elvira in Flo Fagarelli as Alma. They were really, really they were amazing in this. And,
Alma was great. Alma played her part perfectly. Right?
She kind of reminds me of the youngest Lannister kid, Cersei Lannister's youngest kid.
Yeah, a little bit.
Marcella. She reminded me a lot of Marcella.
Yeah.
And then Thea Sofie Loch, who played Cinderella, is also she does a really good job going from villain to heroine.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really great different retelling where so many films and so many IPs are going into free domain. Free use like Night of the Living Dead, and you get all the weirdness from that, which I'm still a big fan of Sid Haig's stuff in the Night of the Living Dead films. I don't care what anyone says. Or the Winnie the Pooh films that my wife refers to as a sacrilege. Mm-hmm. This is definitely a must watch. If you have Philo, you definitely need to watch this. You need to support the filmmakers of this. Directed by Emilie Blichfeldt. And she also did the screenplay. Mm-hmm. Absolutely amazing. The editing of this is well done. Like I said, it drags a bit sometimes, but it's in the sake of the storytelling, and that's what makes it acceptable.
I like also they use a filtering sheen to kind of give it this fairy tale dusting a little bit, where it's kind of like this like fogginess to it a lot, and then they utilize the light in the dark scenes, in the light scenes kind of idea, which is, you know, which we're seeing more and more of now. That's becoming more of a thing where it's kind of being the opposite, but they really do a good job of that. And then when they utilize the dark, it's almost like its own
character,
not character, but like timing thing, right? You like it's like when you hear Jason Voorhees' music, when you see something go really dark, you know something's about to happen. That's kind of how they foreshadow this a little bit, and it really works really well to that effect. If this movie wasn't so gross, I would say it was really good, but it's really gross. So
I think the grossness of it, though, the one thing that I truly appreciate, though, is that for as gross as it is, it's not for torture porn's sake. It's all for storytelling.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Human Centipede is to repulse.
Yeah, it's not hostile, where it's just
correct
blood after blood after blood. It is correct. It does have a lot of story. It does have a lot of beats to it.
And as a male, it really makes me appreciate more the crap that women go through.
Yeah, right.
For no reason.
Yeah, especially during that time period.
When I was 9, my papa hung himself from my treehouse.
She'll come back. She always does.
A pretty white girl, metal artist with talent. Child, I done seen it all.
Do I owe you anything?
You can pay. This bar is cash only.
We have to do things the right way. Or we all end up alone.
My mom is dying.
You started this.
The girl ain't got no choice.
If I get caught, I die in jail.
You can have your mom. But they took over the house.
I don't need any of you!
Freeze! Come on, let's go! Let's go!
Hold up.
She did.
This movie is called Bound, and wow, this talk about a movie that really utilizes its turn perfectly. I enjoyed how this movie turned on its head a little bit because it was starting to get a little frustrating at the beginning.
I was getting Bound really. It was hard for me to understand what I was watching. It was very difficult. This really felt like your typical indie where kid has bad home life, kid runs away from hick town to go to the big city, makes friends. But it turned out to be a lot more, but it hit all those beats.
Yeah.
And then I'm realizing that this was events, loosely based on true events of the lead actress's life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of funny how these things that you look at as cliche in film actually happens in real life. And this film also, in its own way, it did have one sort of heavy hitter in this film. Jessica Pimentel, who plays Martha, who was Maria in Orange is the New Black. So that sort of brought some gravitas to this, in my opinion.
Okay. I can see that. Isaac Hirosu Wolfer, who made this movie, something struck me about a thing he said in the press release, which I was a privy to. He said that he wanted this movie to kind of turn and keep turning, kind of like a NASCAR event. And I think that he accomplishes that incredibly well because this movie does have a turn on top of a turn on top of a turn on top of a turn until it just runs out of room to turn. I think this movie suffers from one ailment in that everybody here at one point or another is unlikable in this movie. I mean, from the lead character who was being abused to the mother who was all drug addled and being abused, obviously the stepfather, even the bar owner, the woman you mentioned who
Martha,
been in everything. She was unlikable in a moment. The barista owner was an unlikable character from the get-go. I did not ever gravitate to him, even toward the end when he does what he does at the end. That really would have colored it bad for me. But because there is an anchor like that here, you see the good in everybody too. So there is a turn for everybody. Even the stepfather, there's a turn for.
Yeah.
And I get it. That's real life. That's real human beings. There's real complexity to the emotions, and it adds to the actual flavor of the realism of what we're talking about and authenticates it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it any more watchable. And here's
the thing. This is a film where I get what it's trying to do, but in a lot of ways, it's really difficult to catch up with it. It's kind of like it's like you're chasing your older brother or your older cousin, and they're faster than you, and you can't keep up no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
This movie just goes and goes, and it doesn't stop going.
The one thing I will say, and to Mr. Isaac out there, who I think this was one of the best directed films we've seen, for sure. It was well directed because it was well managed. It was well orchestrated. The pacing was perfectly done the way that it was supposed to be done. I mean, where we might have had issues with whatever we had issues with, that was not on the directing aspect of it, because I think that everything moved the way it was supposed to move, right? It's just that we, as humans, don't gravitate to certain things about that movie.
Correct.
You know,
well, the one thing that I like, though, about it, though, is that this is a movie that has to be indie.
Yeah.
Because this is a film where a studio is going to try to force something in for shock value's sake.
Or for comedic relief's sake.
Right. And the thing is that even our comic relief, usually the comic relief in films are some moral compass somehow.
Yeah.
In our comic relief, he isn't.
Yeah.
He gets, like, everyone gets called out. When Bella needs these people the most, they let her down.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that when you see in movies like this is that never happens. They're always there for her. They're either there for her, for the protagonist, or they betray the protagonist.
Yeah.
This time they literally just they didn't. And that's real life.
There's this weird connection that they all have to Bella that just is really, despite her lack of social skill, right? She and her lack of letting people in, they all gravitate to her for some reason, some way.
It becomes a need to protect her because of her situation.
And she fights it every way, a step of the way, you know.
Oh, she's a jerk, man.
Yeah.
She's an absolute asshole. Like, and this definitely goes under, you don't have to like your protagonist. A protagonist isn't a protagonist because you like them.
Yeah.
That just happens to be a trope.
Yeah. I was gonna mention to Mr. Isaac, you know, you did a great job directing this, but why did you have to have the bad guy listen to death metal? Why did it have to be so cliche?
I think it would have been funnier if he, you know what? I wouldn't have even wanted him to listen to country because he looks like some hick meth dealer. I think it would have been fun. I think it would have been subverting expectation if he listened to classical.
Yeah, or had Kendrick Lamar or something on there. You know?
Bro.
But full gangster.
I swear, if I see some pot-bellied, meth-addled looking redneck listen to Dane Like Us, I'm checking out. I'm leaving. I'm getting my keys. I'm opening the dimensional door, and I'm going.
Fair enough.
But you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing it just so I can say I saw it. Joe, guess what I saw?
Yeah, but no, I think this movie was. I never had a problem with the way it was paced ever. I felt like all three acts really did their job, and like I said, the script was whatever. I felt like a lot of this was probably off script a lot. I think it went. There are some nice lines in here, and there's some nice writing that goes along with this, but it felt like a lot of what we were experiencing was in the actors' hands. You know, a lot of the emotional things, a lot of the explosions, and there was a lot of physicalness to this. So I felt like that in its writing sense, it was probably there, but the actors probably colored that a lot more. Mm-hmm. So I don't fault that aspect of it, even though some of it was a little stale at times. This was very well directed because I think everybody gets to the end of this movie, no matter how they feel about Bella or how they feel about anybody in this movie. I think this movie just fascinates you enough to keep you going to the end. And even at the end, when it gets a little bit too far-fetched and goes and goes and goes, and you're just screaming at the screen for somebody to kill somebody, you know, it is still,
it still comes together.
Yeah, it's still there, and it's
not bad. It's definitely. I definitely don't want anyone to think that I'm like slamming this. It's just like, this is no way a Juve Bowl. Not at all. This isn't a Juve Bowl. This isn't a Neil Breen. This isn't, no. What it is just the sometimes in indie film, it can be so different that it feels like a fever dream. And that's really what this is. It's a fever dream in a lot of ways. And that's not a bad thing. It's art. Yeah. It's art.
Willie, you can be honest with me. You're doing this to me because I'm black, right?
I'm doing this because I think you're a bum.
I'm looking for Vinny.
Vinny? Fernando. Oh, you must be talking about Fernando.
You mean Vinny, man. Vinny. Please, especially in front of a woman, you gotta call me Vinny.
Johnny.
Oh, man.
I was wondering, you know.
Sorry.
Tommy.
Tommy, I really like Frederick.
You call me a bum because I'm black, right? See, if I was a white guy, I'd be eccentric.
You were a white guy, you'd be a white bum.
Wait a minute. Man. It's Friday night.
Manhattan is where it's at. That's why I don't even be hanging in the Bronx.
What's the first stop, y'all?
Where the girlies are, bro.
Oh! Yo, baby, yo. What's your name? My name is Vinny.
He's Italian.
Hey, you hear that? There's a party going on up there. Come on, let's go. I'll just knock on the door and say Jose sent us.
Party night.
Jose sent us.
You keep messing with them girls like that, man, and one day you're gonna come down with something strange.
Crazy night.
Okay, fellas. Let's see some ID.
Yo, Vinny, man, cut it out, man.
It says Fernando Cuevas. So your friend over here just called you Vinny.
Some women got money, some women don't got money. Don't get stuck with a bad investment.
$15.
Excuse me?
Wait a second. That's class discrimination.
Well, that's appropriate. You look like you have no class.
You got a quarter?
Yeah, I got a quarter.
You got a quarter?
It's the only night for hanging with the homeboys.
I'm not black. I'm Dominican.
Hanging with the homeboys. Are you coming or what?
This is the life, B.
This was my first indie film. Hang with the Homeboys is a film that's been in my life for over 30 plus years. Actually, almost 35 years. Holy crap. Tells the story of four young men from the South Bronx, 2 black, 2 Hispanic, with an asterisk.
One who wants to be Italian and not
yeah. One is Puerto Rican that wants to be Italian.
Yeah.
And just how these it's about growing up and growing apart. You know, this is something that it's painful.
It's celebrating the last night of them being
innocent,
who they were.
Yeah, it's the last night of being young and dumb. And we've all been through that. We've all had a group of friends that we hung out with every night, every week, every Friday night for years.
Yeah.
And then one day you just realize you've grown apart. You're not the same people.
Yeah.
And you know, you might like those people, but they're not your people no more. And that's what this film is, you know. Yeah. And
this is a from where it came out to, I have to say, I'm guessing this set the standard for night out on the town movies, because there's a slew of them that follows this movie, but I can't think of any that came before it. This was really great to see. This was kind of like watching an origin story of a film trope that I do enjoy. I enjoy those films, and this one seemed to set the standard for it, and it shows its cracks because of that for me a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'll nerd out on the filmmaking aspect of this. There's an absolute great dolly shot of the four of them standing in front of the liquor store, and the dolly goes from behind them to around to the front of them, and it moves. They never move. The camera is moving the entire time. It's a beautiful, beautiful shot, and that is talent right there. That is constructed talent that I just was like, I wish there was more of these shots, but a lot of this movie didn't call for that. I really found like the nightclub stuff really nice because it was nice and clean. There was never any flashing or confusional stuff in there. So I really felt like I wish more movies would borrow that aspect of that, because there's a lot of movies where they put you in a nightclub and it's just cringy and it's unaudible. It's very too overwhelming senses wise. That was not this movie. This movie played every aspect of it. It was like I'm watching this. I would imagine that maybe I don't know too much about the director and beyond that, but I would imagine that this was maybe a thought of a stage play at one point in career, because it reminds me a lot of a stage play, a lot of in and out. You're going back and forth between conversations and talking and dialogue, and its beats work really well because of that. and I really enjoyed all of that aspect of it. Yes, to answer your original question, yeah, I like this movie a lot. I really did like it.
I knew you
would. I don't like the ending. I think the ending stinks in this movie.
What do you mean? Why? Explain that to me.
It weirdly abruptly ends. It just weirdly abruptly ends. Like he says goodbye. One friend says finally says what he wants to say to this friend, and then just leaves him. And all you see is just him standing there. Then you go to John Leguizamo, who goes home, and you realize what home is to him. And then he fills out the application. That was the only part of the ending I liked. And then you go to the next. You go to the guy who wishes he was Italian versus now he's really embraced being Puerto Rican, and he wakes up in the gutter after he's been left there after a fight, and that's the end, and it ends.
Well, see, I kind of like that though, because those last hangout nights, they do just like you had the one where someone finally gets put in their place, someone has just made a decision of their life, and then the other one is never going to change. I kind of like that because it sort of does the right thing by these characters based on who they are.
Yeah.
And
I think Mario Joyner's character got gypped in that ending, though. That's what I think. I think Leguizamo gets. I think Nestor's character gets the funny ending. Leguizamo gets the
empowering ending.
Gets the he's the one moving on to better his life ending, and then the other gentleman
Dougie
Doug, when he looks out and he sees what he's going to become, that is a kind of a powerful, nice metaphorical ending. But poor Mario Joyner just walks out the door and we don't hear any resolve in what's going on with him. And that's kind of,
I can understand that. And John Leguizamo is the guy who became the most famous of. Now, Mario Joyner is he's still big in comedy. Dougie Doug.
Nestor does a lot of stuff still.
Nestor is a big TV actor.
Yeah, he's the guy you all know in stuff.
Like I've seen this guy.
I had a lot of fun with this movie. I felt it. I felt its influence. I felt its indiness. I really loved everything about that element of it too. I felt it was really well shot. It was really well designed. The ending left me unsatisfied, but ultimately, now that we've talked it through a little bit, I just think I was a little harder on it than I should have been. I think you're kind of right about that. But I really did. I really enjoyed this movie, and it led me to the one question that I had for you when I finished it, which is, how did John Leguizamo not become a bigger star?
Super Mario Brothers.
One thing I think about this movie that I will always carry with me is that this movie is an influencer movie. This movie influences a lot of things that I know I like.
I agree. There was one hangout film that came out about 8 years before this. It was a Tom Cruise film called Losing It. And I'll tell you what, it is nowhere near as good of a hangout film as